Another day, another real world test. Today we're doing it on the Nothing Phone 2A Plus, and we happen to have the community edition, but if you're interested in the Nothing Phone 2A Plus normal version, this will still pertain as there's really only some design changes, which we'll talk about later. Also today, we're not in New York City, we're in India with MediaTek, and we're actually up very early right now because we're in a rush to go see a wonder of the world. But first things first. Coffee, check. And welcome to the Taj Mahal. After being designated a World Heritage Site in 1983, it is one of the most recognizable buildings in the world and a symbol of India. In 1932, it was commissioned by the then Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan as a mausoleum to his late wife, his favorite of three queens that he had, after she died giving birth to their 14th child. He decided he would build it on the Yamuna River across from his royal palace here in Agra. It was named the Taj Mahal to honor the Queen Mumtaz Mahal and was made of white marble with jade, crystal, amethyst, turquoise, and other semi-precious stone. It is 240 feet or 73 meters high at the center dome and has four smaller domes or towers surrounding it, and is a prime example of Mughal architecture at the time, which combined Indian, Persian, and Islamic influences. Inside, in the center, is a cenotaph, which is a fake tomb of the queen. The real sarcophagus with her remains is actually below this at garden level, buried next to her late husband, after he passed away in 1666. It apparently took 20,000 workers from India, Persia, Europe, and the Ottoman Empire, along with 1,000 elephants over 20 years to build. It was also most likely designed by the same person who made Humayun's tomb in Delhi, which we actually saw earlier on this trip, Ustad Ahmad Lahori. It actually fell into disrepair over the 200 years after Shah Jahan's death, and near the beginning of the 19th century, Lord Curzon, the British viceroy to India, ordered it restored as part of an effort at the time to preserve India's heritage. Today, 45,000 people visited a day during peak tourist season, and being here today, I believe that number. Now, the Phone 2A Plus Community Edition that I have here actually kind of matches the Taj's white marble. The phone is a very expected, same transparent design as we've come to know from Nothing. It's a design I myself personally like and feel like is a bit of a differentiator. That, in conjunction with the LEDs on the back, are sort of becoming the brand identity for Nothing as well. Those LEDs, called glyphs by Nothing, are fewer and slightly less capable compared to the more expensive $600 at launch Nothing Phone 2. The glyphs on the Phone 2A Plus can do the timer and progress feature still, and still do the same flashing for notifications that we're now used to from Nothing's phones. You just lose the charging LED indication from the bottom of the 2A Plus versus the 2, as well as more zones to create more intricate notifications, both of which can be made using the Glyph Creator app from the Play Store. You also get the same flipping the phone over to silence it, stop it from vibrating, and have the LEDs be the only notifications, which you can customize for various different apps, contacts, etc. We still keep the same horizontal camera design like we had on the 2A that is centered, which I can't help but see a cute little robot's face in. And the screen on the Phone 2A Plus is 120Hz adaptive refresh display so that animations and scrolling are smoother, but it can drop down to 30Hz to save some power when things on the screen aren't moving. Same as the Phone 2A, but not as low as the Phone 2's 1Hz. Now that screen is also bright enough to be seen outside in daylight, which is all I really care about. It's also IP54 rated, same as the entire Phone 2 lineup, so rain is no problem, but don't submerge any of them. The back of the Phone 2A Plus is plastic, just like the Phone 2A, instead of the glass that's on the Phone 2, even though it does a pretty good job of faking glass, and the slightly lighter weight of the 2A Plus kind of gives it away a bit more. And we also have no wireless charging on the Phone 2A compared to the Phone 2. Now, for the Community Edition specifically, Nothing asked their community of users to compete to redesign the Phone 2A Plus. 5 members won, and they all added small details to the phone. The ribbons on the back now subtly glow in the dark, and we have a couple of custom wallpapers to match. The packaging was also designed by a community member, as was the marketing campaign, apparently. Now, it's not a big difference, obviously, but it does look cool, and in Nothing fashion, Nothing only made 1,000 of them to further push the idea that this is a limited edition colorware and build some hype. Okay, now for a 3-hour bus ride to India's capital, Delhi. Made it to Khan Market here in Delhi. Originally created in 1951 to provide homes and a market for people migrating from Pakistan to India after the partition of the two, the lower floors were shops and the upper floors were for residences. It was named after Abdul Jabbar Khan, who was a political leader honored in India for rescuing Hindus from Pakistan. It's a U-shaped double-story market complex that is located in the heart of Delhi, surrounded now by residential complexes that are homes to a significant number of bureaucrats from the central government. It's one of the greenest places in the city, and as such, the market is has changed from its once humble roots as the area became more and more affluent. By 2010, only a few families were left living in the market. Now it's more of a bustling hub for food and shopping with a unique blend of old and new, and is one of the most expensive commercial real estate locations in the city. Stores that sell well-known brands are here, jewelry, but also there's bookstores, paint and hardware, electronics, home goods, and a bunch of restaurants and street food. Now, the plus in the Nothing Phone 2A Plus would usually mean a larger phone if we went by Apple and Samsung's standard naming conventions, but here it just means a slight bump in the specs instead. Which brings us to the Nothing Phone 2A Plus's cameras, where we have one of a few differences between the 2A Plus and the 2A regular models. Now on the rear, we have the same cameras as the Phone 2A, a main 50 megapixel Samsung GN9 sensor and an ultra-wide 50 megapixel Samsung GN1. And we have the same 2x, which punches in on the 50 megapixel main to get a 12.5 megapixel image from the center of the sensor. Regardless of the hardware, as we've seen time and time again, the software and tuning can make a huge difference. Now you guys let me know though which you prefer in the comments below. Now the lack of a dedicated telephoto camera means anything beyond 2x isn't going to compete well with other more expensive phones, and the smaller sensors mean that the night shots in general will also have a harder time competing. Now on the front of the phone though, for the Plus model, we now have a 50 megapixel ultra-wide sensor that is the same as the one that we find on the back. And regardless of the megapixels, it's a larger sensor than the 2A, so the shots tend to be a bit better, especially in low light. And it also means that you can record 4K 30 on the front camera now instead of the usual 1080p of the 2A. Now, one of the biggest differences to me between the Nothing Phone 2A Plus and other phones in this sub $400 price range is the software. The software just looks good and it runs smooth. It's just more in line with modern, albeit minimalistic, which some people won't like, design language. The black and white coloring on a very optimized and minimally painted look feels different enough from other Android phones without feeling cluttered, cartoony, or slowed down. You can also download the Nothing Icon Pack from the Play Store, and it'll take all of your icons and make them the same look to match, which my OCD is pleased by. And while that black and white look is meant to keep you from using your phone too much, as I explained in the Phone 2 real-world test, which you can check out below, it doesn't really for me, but again, it just looks nice, so whatever. For performance, the Phone 2A Plus is running a slightly beefier MediaTek Dimensity 7350 Pro versus the Dimensity 7200 Pro in the Phone 2A. Now, I don't notice a big difference in performance in everyday things, but as with the Nothing Phone 2A, the Nothing Phone 2A Plus feels snappy and again feels optimized, reminiscent of OnePlus back in the day, which comes as no surprise. And for most people, I feel like that's all they'll care about and all they'll really need. Okay, so now MediaTek is bringing a bunch of Indian press and tech creators to our hotel for an event that they're calling the Technology Diaries event. And honestly, this is something I found unique and interesting about this event we've all been at for the last few days now, with this being our last night. It's been less about MediaTek and more about India. And according to them, that was by design. They wanted to show us India, a place where, of course, they actually have a 54% market share of the mobile chipset market, but also a place going through a bit of a technological and economical renaissance right now. Some interesting figures we talked about were the fact that people in India went from using about 330 megabytes per person per month in 2016 to over 24 gigabytes per person per month in 2023. This is a country with the largest population in the world at 1.4 billion people and 945 million internet subscribers. To put that into perspective, there are about 340 million people in the United States entirely, and the United States is about 3 times the size of India. They went from 118th place for internet speed in the world to 15th this year, and have some of the lowest data costs at 10 cents per gigabyte. Now, all of this has caused a huge opportunity for startups here, of which there are now 110,000 unicorn ones, which are ones that have over a $1 billion valuation. They're also one of the youngest countries, with the average age being 28 years old, and 65% of the country is under 35 years of age. They're also incentivizing companies to create semiconductor fabs here, and we heard more than once about India being primed to be the next big manufacturing hub, competing with their rival China. It's honestly just been super fascinating, and it's been a pleasure to meet so many people from India. Which brings us to the battery life of the 5,000 milliamp battery in here. So here is my screen on time usage for anyone who's curious about that for today. Keep in mind, this is not a normal day. It was a real world test day, and I used the camera way more than you ever would. So here's another day that was not a real world test day, so you at least have something to compare it to. And honestly, it's been solid. It's to the point where I haven't thought about battery life during my day, which is the highest praise for a phone about battery life. Charge it when I'm sleeping, and then not think about the battery or charging until I go back to bed that night. And there you go. Thanks to MediaTek for bringing us all out here. This was not sponsored or anything like that. They did pay for our flights and our hotel. And honestly, it's just been a really cool experience. Very eye-opening, to be honest with you. I've never been to India before. It's my first time. And it's just been great to like meet all of the people here in India. Hope you guys enjoyed that, though, as like a good and kind of, more unique, different backdrop for this real world test. Let me know what you guys think of the phone of this video in the comments below. Always appreciate hearing from you guys. And now I'm going to go back downstairs and hang out some more for our last night. Good night. And today, there are loud-ass birds around me. Jesus Christ. What is that? They're so loud. I can't film here. Jesus. Also, today, we're not in New York. You bird? Oh my God, they're following me.